republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, then, this is the regular meeting of the Budget Committee, and it is also a special meeting of the Budget Committee as it is here to wrap up details in process for the Town of Milton, New Hampshire warrant 2018. And there are a couple of housekeeping details to cover, which is that to thank the department heads for their time tonight and their earlier prep work and the CIP discussions. And I regret personally that the warrants are not as they have been noted in more detail. I'm at fault for that. I realized after Thursday's meeting that I was part of the CIP process. I was at the presentation meetings to the planning board. I was at the presentation meetings to the selectmen, and I did not do enough to make them available for the Budget Committee itself. I also want to make a personal correction in discussing the town budget. It has been incomplete and untimely. Sloppy was not a fair word to use. Particularly, Danielle has come up to speed fast on unfamiliar tasks, and I appreciate the detail she has provided. I just wanted to make that part of the record. Suzanne has had 50 years, and she still has problems reading my own mind. And the voter's guide hasn't come out yet, so we'll start from that. On the warrants, Bob Carrier had a comment to make to me. I have from this material an operating budget of $4,508,115. Bob Carrier, in reviewing the minutes of the Budget Committee, which sets the operating budget, noted that $250, which had gone out of Karen's budget, came back in. Bob Carrier.
Okay. What I have here is what Tom McDougall sent me, his spreadsheet. And what I've done with this spreadsheet, I've gone back through the minutes to see the final numbers on each department head's budget. I put the formulas in that spreadsheet, and I checked all the numbers, and they are coming out according to the December 4th meeting minutes. Those things, I put those that are in red because this is the ones that the Budget Committee has changed. Now, I've gone through each one to make sure the numbers came out correctly. What I've done, I also put a formula where I put the blue. I put each one to see what number I would come out with. And I did come out with that number, and I also did it on another scale, and they both match. The one I had to change was the mileage and the travel for recreation. I had it set at $750, which gave me that $4,508,115. And looking at the motions, there were 3 of them. The first one was to reduce that line by 700 to 750. The second motion that came across with the new number, it failed. And to back up a little bit, that first motion passed 5-4 to take out $250. The second motion was made for the new number, and that failed 4-5. The third motion was made to go back to the original number, and that passed 5-4. So what I've done, Mr. Chairman, I've gone through that. I put all the formulas in where the blue was to make sure I would get that same number. And I added it up with another set of numbers, and they come out. Every number that was in this December 4th meeting minutes match everything that's in here. So this is where I come up with the new number is $4,508,365.48. I have it in 2 locations. It seems to work. Do you agree with that, Tom? I mean, I put,
I don't have a copy of what you're talking about.
oh, I'm sorry, I
Oh,
gave one
sorry.
the copy of them. You want this one, you can have it.
to us last week. Oh, I didn't bring that in.
I've only
Bob,
brought,
isn't that the motion, the number that we motioned on, though, last
I
Thursday?
believe, I know we did.
Yeah,
Uh,
so are we
but
trying
it's-
to change it again or something, or?
Well, if you look at the green sheet, not the green sheet, one of the warrant articles that you had on top of 4, it's in green, in the packet I gave you. In the packet, not that one. That one there says 115, that's why I said it's incorrect. And right, that's it right there. If you look at the top line, Article 3, it is not correct.
So you're saying that Article 3 on the warrant articles is incorrect?
Yes. I've gone over it again, and I'm getting the same number. And I was following Danielle's reading minutes as well.
Article 4, the operating budget.
Hey,
Article 3, according to my paper.
Article 3
Yeah.
according to him too.
yeah.
But we made the motion on the amount in blue.
Yes,
So that amount would carry over into that Article 3.
it should be in there.
Right.
Now, I took Danielle's minutes as well. The numbers match with ours, the December 4th. The motions, everything matches us. So I brought the meeting minutes with me. And we approved each department. The number on the side that it was in red, that was one that Tom discovered the error in.
Now, just on that, and the default number that you have, what are we in agreement on for the default number, which I have it on this document, printed as $4,534,914. What number are you showing?
I don't have
In the
it.
warrant article, there isn't a number.
There is none.
That, okay.
And there's
that's-
no number on this one as
So-
well.
What I have in front of me is materials that Danielle gave me at the nominal 11 o'clock this morning, which shows the figure of $4,508,115. I have no problem in accepting a motion from this committee to make sure that our figure follows the formula and notation that Bob gave us, bringing it to $4,508,365.48. And did the selectmen call their own meeting to order?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I didn't want to interrupt you,
Oh,
Mr.
please.
Chair, but yes, I will call the selectmen's meeting at 6:40.
Okay.
5:40.
I'm sorry?
5:40.
Oh, 5:40, I apologize. All
That-
in favor? Aye.
That,
We're all-
okay. Then, the question to the selectmen, the default number, which is not under the budget committee control, the default number that you have decided on for operating budget, Article 4, is $4,534,914. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then, may I, is there further discussion on, is it clear what Bob has done and what my own discussion is, and any comments you have? Tom, you're at the end, are you? It is $250. It is nothing in a $4 million budget, but I would like, for the difficulties we have had, things to be as clear and on the money for what our minutes say. In point of fact, once a number goes in and is accepted to the deliberative session, that's it. Math errors are tough luck.
Yes, I'm fine with the 365 number.
365. 48, okay. Any other discussion? Sean, are you?
No, I thought we voted on this last
We-
time. Okay.
What The next thing I have to say in my notes is, I want a confirming, reconfirming, and including motion to cover the entire warrant 4. We don't have a motion to recommend Article 4 because we did not have a default number in the body of that warrant article.
You did a special, I got Article 3,
I'm-
operating budget.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
There was when Joanne redid it, she added Article 1, which is the elections, and then everything else got bumped down.
Okay, so I may be crazy. I may be crazy, but you can't catch me on that one. Okay, so Article 4 is the operating budget, and Article 2 is zoning, and what is Article 1?
Article 1 is your elected.
One is the
officials.
elections, the next two are zoning.
And then we have no action on election and zoning.
Mr. Chairman, can I stop you there?
Yes, Bob?
Dennis, do you have the warrant articles?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Actually, I found, I had Sean in the office.
Okay.
Then,
Can I ask a quick question?
yes, Sean, please.
So, do you have the updated version in front of you?
I believe that I have the updated version, which was given to me, and it includes the number for the default budget, which is not a number under our control. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Then, if that discussion makes sense, for returning the $250, which in a pattern of 3 motions was put back into Karen's budget, would you please make a move that the operating, the 2018 operating budget for the town of Milton, as approved by the budget committee, is $4,365,000. I'm sorry, $4,508,365.48.
Make the
So
motion.
moved. Second.
second. Oh.
Second by Tom. Any further discussion? No. Then, on the roll call from my left, Sean?
No.
Yes,
Yes.
Tom? Aaron?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody.
Mr. Chair, I'll vote yes.
I'm sorry, Andy?
Yeah, and I'll vote yes,
You'll
thank you.
vote
We
yes.
miss you up here.
Trying to keep my
okay.
colleague company.
Then that was 1, 2, 3, and the chair votes yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
7 and 2.
7 and 2. Okay. Thank you for that. The next motion would be to to recommend, you can do it for or against, the operating budget, Article 3, Article 4, whatever the math needs. Yes.
If I make a request, any chance we can get a copy of what you've got so that we're all singing off the same sheet?
If you just take and put, and redo the numbers, so.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, the things got added just in case numbers changed. I'd really like us all to be singing off the same sheet of music. If you're reading off a piece of paper that was printed 11 o'clock today, we're reading off a piece of paper that was printed last week, things
I agree.
sometimes slip through. I think we all need to be, because this is what's gonna go on the, we're gonna vote on the deliberative session. I think we all need to be reading off the same sheet of music.
I would agree.
It's a matter of 5 minutes at the copier.
Can you find, Danielle, can you find an Article 1 as well? Thank you, Danielle.
There is no Article 1.
There is no Article 1.
It won't be until February 2nd.
Okay.
It lists all the...
Yes, thank you.
Well,
That was Michelle Beauchamp from the audience pointing out that Article 1 necessarily has to wait for the closing of the filing period to have a proper list of names. In the mean time, while that is being photocopied, Stan Nato raised a solid question regarding the article which is for the eradication of European naiad. And he wanted to hear from the Three Ponds Association as to what monies had been spent and why there was still money left in that account. And as I remember, it was because there is only a certain window of opportunity to deal with European naiad before it goes to seed. So while we were waiting for the photocopies, Steve, could you speak to that work that has been done and how your monies have been expended?
Yeah, I'm Steve Baker. I'm founder of TPPA in 2004, but currently treasurer, vice president. We have roughly 6 board members, and we've been shuffling assignments, which is what most nonprofits do. So now the president is in Florida, lucky him. But I'm here based on the fact that I saw the meeting on YouTube of last Thursday's meeting, and I heard my colleague here get thrown under the bus a bit by Stan, and he asked some good questions, and I'm here to clear up whatever you want to know about TPPA. But basically what happened is last year we treated naiad for the second time, and we had a late start because the dam weed didn't get going till into July. So we spent $38,000 last year, $35,577, and our plan from the beginning was to spend all the money that we got from both New Hampshire and Maine before we started spending the town's money on. They gave us a lot of money last year, and we ended up at the end of the year deciding what was left. The split of the bills that was left was we were going to go 1/3 TPPA, 1/3 Lebanon, and 1/3 Maine. Milton paid $2,077 out of the $10,000 that had been put in. So we have $8,000 left, and we all agreed that we would just push that forward to 2018. The real issue is, do we need further money set aside in a warrant article? And frankly, I don't think we're going to need it this year, but I didn't want to lose the place marker for the 5K, which is sort of the dispute that we're talking about. Since we talked last week, we've heard from New Hampshire. They've allotted us $6,300 for 2018. We hoped we'd get $5,000. They've already said, we'll give you $6,300. Good news. So back to do we need any money this year? Beyond the roughly $8,000 that you've already agreed to give us,
That we encumbered.
that we've encumbered,
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna need any money this year from them. Our plan is to attack it again with about $30,000 worth of spending. We've still got lots of money available from TPPA set aside. Lebanon has agreed to pay some more money, you guys have agreed to spend more money, so I don't think we need the 5K put into the budget. Again, I don't wanna lose the place marker. So that's sort of what I think you need to hear, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you have. One of the questions that came up in reviewing and watching the YouTube video was, who's looking at the money, who's keeping an eye on things? I go to the accountant here, and put in all the invoices. She agreed to what we set out this year and agreed to pay the $2,077. I did the same at Lebanon, they agreed to do the same. We've got Maine, New Hampshire, Milton, and Lebanon, all of them in my book. I've been a finance guy for 35 years, former CFO of many big companies, and so the numbers are well in hand. I'd be happy to lay out all my spreadsheets for you, but it would just, bore you to death. The point is, we don't spend a nickel that we don't have to. We only spend NIAID money on the NIAID project, i.e., when you're doing the solitude lake management, sucking up the weed, or they're putting down chemicals to kill the weed. We have two separate pots of money, weed money and regular checking accounts and regular dues and whatnot. We've got 200 odd members who give a lot of money every year to keep the lakes clean. And so they're already contributing, that is the townspeople. And so what we're asking Milton to contribute is kind of small potatoes, because as we all agree, Wheat Farms is the economic engine for this town. If we screw it up, there's nobody to blame but ourselves. So, Stan, I know you had issues and questions, and others had legitimate points to make in that budget meeting, so.
In one bottom line question.
Yep.
If the, will you be presenting that at the deliberative session as well? Two questions. You will present that at the deliberative session. A special warrant is not a placeholder in the operating budget. It gets re-upped every year unless it's a non-lapsing account for 2 years. If the budget committee were to recommend against that because you have effectively talked yourself out of $5,000, would that be a hardship for the proper continuation of the program?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I speak for the board, and they haven't signed up to agree with that. But
Thank you.
now, when is the deliberative session, by the way?
February 10th.
February 10th.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll still be around February 10th. I'm going to Florida, middle of February to the middle of March.
Okay.
I was gonna stay home this year, and I said, last week when it was cold,
Thank you. Then, if we were looking finally at the same piece of paper, on Article 15, I would entertain a motion
Mr. Chair, I believe we voted on this last week, 8-0.
Right. Any one of us can put a motion into not supporting them.
I'm sorry,
To not support.
do you want to do that?
I mean, if the money's not needed, if you remember correctly, I was the one who stood up at the Globe last year and asked to double the money. So I support the cause. There's no doubt about it. But if there's $8,000 sitting in the fund, and the people that are saying to us they don't feel they need the money this year, then I think that we should take them for their word and not have, it's still gonna be it's up to the Board of Selectmen whether or not it makes the ballot. But they can go back and not support it also.
I don't think we'll need more than the 8,000 this year.
Well, I'm not.
That's really the point.
Right, but we're just talking about the 5,000 on this year's potential ballot. So basically, it's up to the Board of Selectmen if they want to strike it.
Mr. Chair, just a question because you know that I'm still learning. The NIAID is not going to be totally eradicated for quite a while, correct?
Correct. That's assumption.
What would happen if we tried a fund balance, what are they called? Capital reserve fund.
A revolving fund, possibly.
Pardon?
We could use a revolving fund.
Yeah.
But they haven't started a revolving account for that yet.
Well, no, but I mean, if that overrides or is instead of the actual request for 5,000, and the selectmen decide that they want to change that,
I don't
and
know if we have the benefit of the time to change the warrant articles at this point.
That's why unfortunately we didn't.
I'm sorry, sure. The $5,000 either gets approved by the voters and is not spent and goes back to the general fund, or it stays it does get spent because something drastic happened and the weed starts growing on March 1st without sunshine. And all of a sudden it's gangbusters and it can be used. So this is one of, it seems to be, the money will not go to anything useful, either by staying in the account or being spent.
So I question that though, because if it's, it doesn't say it's a non-lapsing. So if the $5,000 is raised and appropriated, okay, and they don't need it, then it's not gonna be used, it has to be used in the 2018 year.
Or it goes back to the general fund.
Or goes back to the general fund.
And not lost. Anyway, whatever the committee wants to do. Sean, you started to say that we had voted and.
No, I think Stan wanted to make.
No, personally, I have no problem. We voted, we all agreed that, you know, that it should, it's a good cause,
Okay.
all right? I have no problem leaving it alone. And let the voters decide what they wanna do.
All right.
I have no problem with that. I had no concerns with the TPA so much as I have with the Board of Selectmen last week, not having the answers to my questions.
Well, we can't have all the details to every question.
Right. Then, Article 15 can stand as previously discussed, and we'll go back to.
Just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, what was the vote on that?
I was going to.
8-0.
8-0.
Okay, so, that, people who are listening to this at home can take that into account when they vote in March.
And Mr. Chair, I just think that, that it's a good, I think we should leave it, because we have the unanticipated that could arise with the NIAID, and you know, I just think that, you know, it's just not the people around the lakes issue, it's town-wide, and so I think we should leave it.
I was just advised that our previous vote to recommend was 8-0. Nick Murray.
Is it possible that we could check with the town attorney to see if it could be changed at the deliberative session to become a capital reserve, establish a capital reserve?
We will,
Yeah, we can check in on that, Nick, it's a good question.
okay, yes, thank you, good thought. Okay, we have just a few minutes left until I open and then immediately recess the public hearing on the town budget. We have been in discussion on what I have as Article 4. Does everyone now have it as Article 4, the operating budget? Okay. On the operating budget, as on our common piece of paper, it shows the operating budget as $4,508,815. There is a motion from Bob Carrier and a second from Tom to change that number to the actual required by our minutes number of $4,508,365.48. I believe we are available to vote on that motion. In agreement? Then, from my left, Sean, on the
So it's
article.
a duplication of what we already did.
We
It
just
is
did it.
reconfirming and adding the default number provided by the selectmen to the paragraph structure of Article 4.
Thank you.
So,
Still no?
Still yes?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Lauren? No,
Yes.
yes. Andy?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Do the selectmen in the 1 minute we have before the public hearing starts wish
Mr.
to
Chair.
vote to join the budget committee in that number of $4,508,365.48?
Which still needs to be changed in this, even the new print.
Yes, okay, but we'll have that. Okay, the time being 6 p.m., I will open the public hearing on the town budget and warrant and recess it for the continuation of the regular meeting of the budget committee, which is still reviewing the warrants needed for that public hearing. Article 5, which is a standard. Article 5 has been in Nick.
If I may just interrupt briefly, the remaining articles that you're gonna review are based on the CIP. So a couple things, we have a slide for each of the remaining articles, and we brought Bruce here to maybe summarize the CIP, because it appears, watching the video, that not everybody was familiar with the CIP and how the warrant articles were formulated based on that process.
The Article 5, which is highway and road reconstruction, has been in place since, I believe,
A long time.
about 97, and I thought that it was such a done deal and understood over time that an additional follow-up was not necessary. If you wish to do that, what's the committee's interest on Article 5?
Well, one of the questions we had last week was what the balance of money was in there. Oh, other than that, wasn't there? Was there any balance left on that? Has it all been expended?
It's not a capital reserve.
Right.
Correct, but was there any, was it all expended in 2017?
Well, we have a check going out right now for over $150,000, and we're still keeping a retainer, so by the time I get done paying for the culvert, it'll be close to being depleted. It was $178,000 for the culvert, and then we had like 40,000 in engineering permits.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, because if you read the article, it's a non-lapsing, so,
Yep.
I mean, if there's any money that's left, that can go into the next year.
It gets
so.
encumbered into another line if there's any left over, and it's
Okay.
usually spent at the beginning of the following year before you get into the 290. Some years there's some left over, some years there's none. Depends on what we can get for a price for hot top and what we have planned for road to be paved.
Good. Then, on Article 5, may I have a motion?
We already voted on that,
Okay,
7-1.
thank you. New pieces of paper. Article 6. And that's where I think, already on the screen. And this is, from my understanding, part of a rolling 6-year capital improvement program. And this warrant starts that process. If you could speak to how the old pumper from 1989, with its 29-year life coming to an end, the pumper from 2013, and how this fits in, and the cost of this new payment compared to the cost on the last year of the outgoing pumper.
Okay. So, we bought a new, voters approved a new truck in 2013. It was a 7-year lease. That lease is expiring in 2018, so we're making the last year's payment this summer sometime. If the voters approve a new truck in March, it'll be ordered sometime over the couple months after that, and they take up to a year to build. So that truck will not arrive in Milton until January of 2019. The first payment will not be due until June of 2019. The difference between the old payment and the new payment is $20,000. The reason it's estimated, Stan, is because that's what the town attorney recommended, where interest rates will vary between now and the time we sign the lease agreement. If we locked into a specific dollar amount, then we could be sure if the interest rates go up slightly, or vice versa. So basically, this is gonna get a tanker for the town. Right now we have 3 pumpers. It's gonna double the water capacity that we have on one of the vehicles, and it's gonna replace the oldest truck, and it keeps the rotation so that we don't have to buy multiple trucks at the same time. The lease payments are spread out so that when one's done, the next one will be ready to go. It keeps the tax base even keeled for the most part. Yes, there's an increase in 2019, but it's a $20,000 increase as opposed to if we did not approve it, there'd be a $40,000 dip and then a $60,000, $65,000, or $70,000 increase when it finally does get approved. The reason I wanted to do it this year, again, there's no cost to doing it this year. It takes the year for the truck to come in. But the sooner you do it, the cheaper the truck's gonna be. 5% a year, roughly, 5% on $500,000 is a lot. And over 2 or 3 years, it ends up being substantial. It'll end up being a whole payment. Any other questions that were asked? And if not, I can kind of get into a little more.
So
This is the truck that we're replacing. It's currently in Milton Mills. We bought it used out of Long Island in 2003. Some places you'll see 1990, some places you'll see 1989. The title says 89, other parts say 90, so there's discrepancies, and that's the only difference. So this truck will go at Central Station. Engine 3, which is a 2005, will go up to Milton Mills and rotate the trucks through that way. So the most frequently used trucks will run out of Central, and then that'll give that Engine 3 a break while it's up in Milton Mills to make it last another 10 years, 10 to 15 years, depending on how things go. But I know I can get 10 more years out of that truck. That's why I opted for the 10-year lease as opposed to the original recommendation of the 7-year lease, if you looked at the PowerPoint that I gave you. The other discrepancy between the PowerPoint that I put together for the planning board this summer and this truck was the price. It was $530, was my ballpark recommendation. The $505 is an actual quote. We put the truck together, we designed it as we thought would best be utilized for the town. It came back at $550,000, so we made some adjustments to get it into a more reasonable price range. And the difference was the cab. We changed the cab from a Spartan Gladiator to a Spartan MetroStar, which the big difference is the horsepower. We were opting for the larger horsepower and the bigger amount of torque to for the hills in town, specifically the Ridge and Route 75. The extra torque to get up that hill wasn't worth the $50,000 for us. So that's how that price point came from $550 to $505, and where the $530 that was on that original summertime CIP presentation came from.
So, do I understand your point correctly, that by putting it into the CIP this year, we pick up 5% of the cost? It is not critical to put it in this year, but we're dealing with a 29-year-old pumper that has to start and work perfectly for every single component every single time, or it's dead metal.
Correct.
Okay. Question, follow-up from the committee. Then.
What's gonna happen with the 1989?
Well, I can tell you this, last year Berwick just replaced they replaced 2 trucks and bought 2 brand new ones. It was about $1 million. One of the trucks they traded in was a 1989, and it's gonna be scrapped, so $1,500. A dealer can't take it in on a trade because they're so far out of compliance that they can't resell them to a fire department.
Ah, thank you.
So they're worth nothing. And fire departments are replacing 30-year-old trucks. They're not looking to purchase 30-year-old trucks. The used truck market, there's some fortunate communities that will replace trucks every 10 years. There's a used truck market for those. There's no used truck market for 30-year-old trucks.
Thank you. Good information. Then, may I have a motion, a motion to recommend Article 6? Peg.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 6, the lease purchase Fire department pumper for 505,000.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second
Second, Aaron. Our clerk is not here this evening, so everybody speak clearly. So we have the motion to recommend Article 6. Any further discussion?
Just one question. Mr.
Bob
Chairman.
Carey.
This is approximately 61,000. Is that 61,000 gonna show up on the ballot next year? I mean, I guess it says approximate. I have it.
Yeah, it says approximately because the actual payment based on the 10-year lease at 505,000 is $60,569. I had that written in the warrant article, that exact number. The town attorney recommended that we round it up to $62,000 to cover any variances in an interest rate between now and the time we sign the agreement. However, being cheap that I am, I rounded it up to 61 instead of 62.
Will that be a constant $61 next year, next 61 the year after that, or will it be a declining based on total interest cost?
Whatever that final payment ends up being, that'll be the same all the way across the
It'll
board.
be level for 10 years?
And engine 6 was level for 7 years.
Okay, thank you. Did that clarify things? Tom, you had a question?
If Bob got his answer, I've got, would it be, it sounds like that you're not expecting it to exceed $61,000 for the yearly payment. Would it be possible to write the warrant article to say not to exceed 61,000? It sounds like some of us having issues with approximately. It sounds like it might go up. If we could change that to say not to exceed 61,000, then that would put it's not gonna be higher than that, or 65,000. Some number that you know the warrant article said it's not gonna go above this.
Could check with the town attorney and change it at deliberative session possibly, but the other thing that is fixed in that warrant article that's gonna keep that right around 61,000 is it can't exceed 505,000 and it has to be a 10-year lease. So fluctuating any interest changes, which I wouldn't expect that big. I can look into it, but
it just sounds like there's concern about the word approximately, and maybe those concerns would be alleviated if it was not to exceed. We at work, we buy lots of stuff with, quotes not to exceed X. I don't know if we could do that or not, and I don't know if it'd be advisable. Question for the attorney, but I'm just saying that might alleviate some questions.
To follow on Tom, you were dealing with a variable rate or a set rate from day one?
it'll be fixed once we sign the agreement.
Okay, and so, at what interest rate is your 61,000 fixed?
3.45,
Okay,
When you got the quote.
which was December 18th,
So like
That's-
March, who knows if it might be,
3.55.
right, exactly.
That's
okay.
That's the difference.
the
Then,
difference.
we have a motion.
Or it might be cheaper.
A motion by Peg to approve Article 6 as noted, seconded by Aaron. Any further discussion? Then, on the roll call, from my left, Sean?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That would be recommended 8-1. Okay. Now,
Thanks, Chief.
again, Nick, you're up. This is on the Article 7 Fire Department Equipment and Apparatus Capital Reserve. I think I only have Ray on my, I presume that's short for reserve?
That was, our lovely town clerk found that error. It's been sent
That,
for repair.
okay. The, on Article 7, the capital reserve was established for Article 7 in 1997. The balance as of 12/31/17 was approximately $30,000. Nick, would you please describe the equipment and
Yep.
apparatus?
Just to make one small correction, the balance is $30,893, but there's been a purchase from this summer. It hasn't been reserved,
I-
removed.
that's-
So, 893.
That's why I rounded it. Yeah. Okay, description of what equipment and apparatus will be used for.
So I updated this from the CIP PowerPoint that I sent you guys, or that I gave to the planning board. There's a 15-year lifespan for air packs. Ours are 12. They'll be 13 years old this year. So there is a grant available for this, and we've applied for it for 2 years. This is our 3rd year applying for it. We're in the process. It's due at the end of the month. That's the reason I'm not asking to replace them now. I'm trying to give us enough time to exercise our options with the grant. So my thought was 50,000 every year, and then we'll have enough at the end if the grant doesn't come through. If the grant comes through, we'll only have raised the 50,000, but I can't afford to not have the money when they expire.
Would you say that again?
I can't afford to not have the money when they become non-compliant, not safe.
And
It's
no
not an
breed.
option. No good.
No breed, yes. Thank you.
So they update the editions every 5 years. The 2018 edition came out. We have the 2002 edition. So as we write these grants, there's several different categories we have to check off. One is obsolete. So they're already considered obsolete in the eyes of FEMA.
So that's high priority compared to aging, for
Correct.
example. Okay, thank you.
Or adding new ones. So we currently have 20. There's a chance we're gonna need 25. I have to really sit down and figure it out where they're all gonna go. That's what they're used for. I don't think that's a question. So when we did the grant last year, it was $8,000 per unit. That includes the pack, 2 bottles, and a face piece. We just got the updated quote. It's $8,900 per unit. So what was $160,000 last year for 20 is $178,000 this year, and 25 is $222,000. When we applied for the grant last year, it was $202,000. So that's 1 year. And I think a lot of that reflects on the new standard that came out. Hopefully they'll hold. A little more information on the grant. There is a 5% match, so if we do get $200,000 grant, we're gonna still have to come up with $10,000. So it doesn't hurt to start putting money away.
Okay.
Just for clarity, you
Yes.
said 50,000 a year, because the warrant article says 65,000.
Correct. So, this is why I brought Bruce. All the capital reserves that we're asking for money are based on the CIP. So there's several projects in the CIP. If they're like projects, so equipment or vehicles, and there's an existing capital reserve that unit could be purchased out of, they were grouped together instead of having separate warrant articles. So the 50,000 is what we presented to the planning board for the air packs, and then 15,000 to replace the command vehicle in the future over several years. And that's the same thing with DPW vehicles, DPW equipment, and all those other things. The money going in for the highway department, for example, is for a little bit for the chipper, a little bit for the future replacement of the skid steer, loader, what else, Pat? Those are the 3 big things, right? Pickup trucks.
Excavator.
Then to change slightly, the fact that it says equipment and apparatus is like saying yes means yes. You can buy both of them out of the same line because both are included. Both are a yes.
Correct.
Okay. A discussion from the committee itself. Clearly into the microphone, Dennis Wing has been having serious back pain. He is excused for good cause and will not be any longer at the meeting, I think, unless he's out in the hall. Okay, he's still okay. Did not know. Dennis is here with thanks.
Dennis is gonna have to
Okay.
leave, I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Wasn't sure.
Wish him well.
Yeah, thank you for your work. Then, on the fire
want me to-
department equipment apparatus.
I can keep going with this, which
well,
is the other half of
let's
that.
do, is that still on Article 7?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
balance of it.
So in 2012, we bought the Tahoe, which was a 50% match for Homeland Security grant. It's probably about $45,000 to replace the vehicle. So my thought was $15,000 a year for the next 3 years. If that'll make it 8 years old. If at that point the price is more, or we can get another couple of years out of it, we'll have the money available, and we can, play it by ear in 2020. But
Mhm. Okay,
and that's all I had on that.
thank you. Then, is that information enough for the committee? Any other question on Article 7? Absent that, may I have to Peg?
I'll make a motion to, what do we say, accept the warrant article?
Recommend Article
Recommend.
7 as written.
Article 7 as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you, Sean. No further discussion. On the roll call from my left, Sean,
Yes.
Peg?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
And Andy?
Yes. Thank you.
And the chair votes yes. That would be a vote for recommendation of 8-0. Article 8 is the Highway Department Special Equipment Fund. And that fund was established in 1997. And if I read my numbers correctly, it has less than $20 in it.
$47. 47.
47, I did not read my numbers correctly. 47, has $47 in it. Pat,
So
Pat Smith is here, DPW, could you speak to that, please?
this is, what we have done is done a fleet sheet that shows what the replacement cost would be, which is the large amounts for each piece of equipment. And it breaks it down by years remaining, and it should be replaced, and it gives you a sum in the ARC column, ARC column. And that tells you what you should put away in order to meet your goal in the future to purchase that piece of equipment. So that 15,000 is just a small sum of money to put away to start meeting the goals of the special equipment, which would be like the loader, the excavator, the roadside mower, the chipper, those types of pieces of equipment. So that's just to get the capital reserve fund started to plan for the future.
Thank you. Andy, we had a discussion earlier about what the total in the fund balance is. I had it at 1.6 million, you had it at 1.8. Stan and or Tom had questions regarding why we had, I'm not sure I remember exactly. Tom, I think you wanted to know where, if we were looking at $500,000, did that not actually represent poor budgeting to get to a point where you had 500,000 kicking around?
The comment that I was trying to make was, and after thinking about it, it's a reflection on my part not knowing where $500,000 comes in. I still submit that if we are consistently having balances like that we're returning back to the fund balance, something's wrong. That's a large chunk of money to be returning back. But I understand things are out of our control, but if we are consistently having that much money returned, we need to look at something.
Okay. Does it answer your question, if I follow this selectman correctly, that the $500,000 in the town developing fund balance is not a one-shot payment to the town, but represents incremental money like the sale of properties and some monies that are returned from the school district? It does not represent 500,000 coming in. Does that Does that
I
give you?
don't think there's sales of property in that amount, is it? That 500,000, there's no sale of property in there.
No.
And the 500,000 is just, I don't know what the number is, I just threw a number
Right,
out.
okay, but,
So
there's
don't
no-
hold me to the 500,000, I'm just
But
wanna
that-
make that clear.
but that wasn't generated by sale of properties.
No,
It's
No.
incremental from a variety of sources. Nick Marie?
Yes, you're correct, obviously. But it's extra motor vehicle registrations, potentially, right? Sale of municipal property, some of unexpended funds, which is different than the fund balance, in a variety of different places. But when we make the decision how much we're gonna take from the fund balance when we're creating these warrant articles, we use the previous year's audited number, not what we're planning on turning back December 31st of this current year. So that number, that's why we know we have enough, is, like Andy said, there was 2.3, 500,000 was used to buy down the taxes. If we use 52,000 now, if the NIAID's not on there, that still leaves us within the parameter that's recommended by DRA. That's why we know we're safe. So next year comes and the selectmen spend $600,000 to buy down the taxes and no more money goes back in there, we're not doing the program the same way. So that's based on the fact that the knowledge that the auditor said that's how much money is available in the fund balance. Does that clarify, Tom?
Yeah, my concern isn't necessarily that we didn't have enough money. It's obvious that there is. We can take this out and still be well within the DRA guidelines. It is what appears to be we're looking at it more of a more broader view. We seem to be returning lots of money consistently into the fund balance, and that's my concern. And part of I'm upset with myself because I don't understand where all that money is coming from consistently. And it seems to me that if we are consistently doing that, something somewhere is in my mind out of whack.
Chief Kraus?
Well, I think we can see where most of the money is coming back from, why most of the money comes back from the department heads, because we run our budgets very frugal. In 2016, I didn't expect to lose 2 of my officers for the entire year. So instead of blowing through that entire money of those 2 officers, I covered a lot of those overtime shifts as a salaried employee. So it cost the town $0 for me to work those overtime shifts. When in actuality, I could have had my lieutenant, my sergeant, and all of my guys working time and a half to cover those shifts. And I could have wasted the town's money, blowing through all of that money by having them cover that. Instead, I was very frugal with it, covered the shifts myself as much as I possibly could, and gave the town back a ton of money. So that's why the money's coming back from my budget. If I had had those positions full for the whole year, I probably would have given the town back maybe $60,000 this year. And that's because I run my budget as frugal as I can possibly run it, as do all of the other department heads. We don't go into a year of creating our budgets, looking at it going, I'm gonna throw an extra $300,000 in because next year I wanna put this into the CIP, or I want Pat to be able to buy this out of the CIP. We go into our budgets, we build our budgets in August of the year before. And then we lose officers in January and we lose an officer in March. I can't plan for that in August of 2016. I have to then run my year with the budget that I created the year before. A budget isn't an exact figure. It's a planned number on what I expect it to cost. And if it costs me more than that, I have to come back to the Board of Selectmen, ask for a special meeting, and ask for more money. If it costs me less, great, I've done my job, I give the money back to the town. And I don't spend it willy-nilly. I don't go on a spending spree and buy every single thing that I want to buy, and I get gold desks and gold computers at every desk at my PD. That's why we give it back. And I don't think we're running our budgets high. I don't think any of us are fluffing our budgets. We give everything we can possibly give back to the residents. And if we could keep our budgets going down every single year, we would.
And it's not just the police department that's been short positions. Town hall's been short positions going back 3 years. I'm full staffed for the first, since July, for the first time in probably 3 years. So even though I've been filling my shifts, I haven't had the full-time employees that are using the insurance, which is a huge chunk of money. You have a few full-time employees not taking insurance, all of a sudden it adds up real quick to those kinds of numbers.
That was Chief Marie, Police Department, Nick Marie, I'm sorry, Chief Kraus, Police Department, Nick Marie, Fire, and Pat Smith, DPW.
It's just so that I can clarify my budget and any monies that may come back or may not come back. I have to plan for 5 months of winter. So my months of winter are January, February, March, November, and December of the end of the year. So what I have to do through the course of the year is I have to watch that budget, which I watch every single time, every month. I look at where I'm at and what my percentages are. And I hold back purposely so that when I come into the end of October, the beginning of November, I have money in case we have a month like we just had in December and a little bit of it in November. If I have the money there, I can get through the end of the year, I can have the salt, I can have the sand, and I can plow the roads. If I don't, and I stayed on track to spend everything each month, and I end up with a December that I've had this year, and had to buy a little extra salt, and have some things on hand for the weather that we had, plus we had other issues with heat loss and that type of stuff, I just keep that buffer there. If I don't have that weather in November and December, then I turn the money back into the town. I can't, if you look at my budget and I give you this data that I keep track of every single event that we have for winter. I had 36 events last year, from January 1st to December 31st of 2017. That's 36 times I had to go out with highway trucks and crew to either plow or to sand or to do drifts or whatever the case may have been that had to do with winter. 36 events. I can give you what it cost me per inch to plow that snow. I can tell you how much fuel it cost me to plow that snow. I can tell you how much salt it cost me to sand those roads and salt those roads. If the weather predicts what I do, 1/3 of my budget, $630,000, $180,000 of that, pretty close to 1/3 of my budget, pays to plow your roads, and that's it. That's how much money goes into plowing your roads. So I have to keep a sum of money going into November, December, so that I can perform that service for the taxpayers of this town. If I don't need it, I give it back. So that's why you're gonna see a surplus from me. You'll always see a surplus from me, as long as I'm Public Works Director in this town. Whether you give me $600,000 or $500,000, I'll not do something in order to be able to take care of my responsibilities in November and December.
Thank you. Michelle.
I just want to reiterate what the chief said. I think working with the department heads throughout the year, you will see that we are very frugal. The word is frugal. We are frugal. And we take great pride in returning that money at the end of the year.
Thank you. We are still on Article 8. It is just after 6:30. And if there's any further discussion, thoughts from the committee, may I have a motion to recommend Article 8 by the Budget Committee? Motion by Peg. Second by Aaron to recommend. Any further discussion? From my left, beginning with Sean.
Aye.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
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 Don. 8, that would be move to recommend Article 8.
Just give you a blank.
8 to 0. Article 9. This is the Highway Department Vehicle Fund, and I believe that it has roughly 42,000. What do you say, Pat?
It has $7,500. There's a payment that needs to come out of that balance. It hasn't been taken out yet for a truck that was purchased in March.
Okay, so the
It's
figure.
approximately $37,500 or something going to come out of that balance.
Okay, then the actual balance is down to
$7,500.
7,500. Thank you. that, Pat, you have pretty much described how things operate in terms of the Highway Department Special Equipment Fund. The same thing would apply to the Department Vehicle Fund. Would you speak to what vehicles we're talking?
The 50,000 that's shown in that one article would be to replace a 2006 F-250 pickup truck that is at the end of its life, and we use that truck currently to plow and to carry the fuel for our off-road equipment. The remainder of that, the 10,000, would be put away to purchase future trucks.
Okay, question from Bruce.
Yes. As the town planner, you know, I helped the planning board and the department heads put together their annual 2018 to 2023 capital improvements program. The biggest thing that you take away from that report that was given to each one of you, first of all in an email on September 26th, it was a while ago, and in your packets not long after that, if you read the report, you will find that the primary goal of the capital improvements program going forward in the town of Milton is to make sure that there are no big spikes in your taxes year on year from having to buy equipment that needs to be replaced. Because you may need to buy a $500,000 fire or apparatus, or you may need to buy something for DPW, you know, that costs $148,000. You don't want to have that be put on the taxpayers year on year. What you want to do is you want to smooth the amount of money that comes out of taxes to the citizens. And the way to do that is to figure out the remaining life of all of the equipment, and then figure out how much you have to set aside every year incrementally that gets you to that year that you need to replace that vehicle or do that project. And that's what the ARC, the ARC is the annual recommended contribution to a capital reserve fund. The problem with what we've done so far is you look at the previous slide where it says there's $7,500 left in the capital reserve fund, or $748 left, is that we're not really putting enough away for even the future beyond replacing the first vehicle. So, all of the people here that give you these warrant articles, they're giving you the annual recommended contribution to replace the next vehicle. And they're being ultra frugal by not saying, oh, but we still need to make sure that the capital reserve fund continues to have that needed amount in it beyond that amount. We're going to get to that this year in the planning board's consideration of next year's capital improvement program. But this is a major step forward based on what you're looking up here on both on the police department, the fire department, and DPW. They've taken a real close look. They've done a great job in figuring out how much they need to ask the taxpayer each year to replace needed equipment on an incremental basis. That is my big message that I wanted to get across to you, and that is in the report this year that you should have read. My point here is that next year, it may be very similar to this, but the annual recommended amount may be a little bit more, because we need to look even further into the future than the next time you replace a vehicle or do a project. And that's what we're going to do next time. But the planning board's recommendations are spot on for every warrant article. And I think you'll see that the recreation department had a warrant article in for the boat ramp. That's been taken off, as I understand. It was not recommended by the CIP or by the planning board. Our recommendation report went to both you and the Board of Selectmen. And we're grateful that you listened, you read the report, and you know what it said. And the warrant articles, as written, are in line with the planning board's recommended 2018 to 2023 capital improvement program.
Thank you.
So I have a question about,
Sean?
so that document, actually I did read it, and it's very insightful. It covered a lot of this, and all your points are extremely valid. Do you think, I noticed that people have been mentioning that there's a possibility next year we'd go back in and maybe update some of those numbers depending on whatever situations that are changing. Is that
That's a possibility. I don't make the decisions, the planning board does for their recommendation. That recommendation goes to these two bodies, the Board of Selectmen and you. You're the one that either follows the recommendation or not.
Yep.
But the point is that we have moved forward in 3 years, I think now, with regard to moving a capital improvement program to the point where it smooths out the impact on the tax rate. And that is our goal.
Sure. So, and I just want to reiterate what you're saying, like, let's say one of these things had like $850,000, something like that. Is that the intent, to have a very small amount in there, or to actually have more in there to, you know what I'm
This year, the
saying?
intent is to have the exact amount.
Okay,
Next year, we're gonna look at making sure that the capital reserve account begins to build and is not depleted in the year that the equipment needs to be replaced.
gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Then, any other question? Tom?
Question for Pat. Is it fair for me to look at the highway department vehicle fund? Is that a roadworthy vehicle? That's a dump truck, that's a pickup, that's something that could be licensed to ride on the road? Where, excuse me, highway department special equipment would be something that's not considered a road licensed vehicle?
Well, they could go on the road, it could be the grader, is a special equipment, anything that's specialized other than a truck or a dump truck.
But something that's not, typically you wouldn't put a plate on a grader, I don't think. So the I'm just trying to get them straight in my mind.
The special equipment
Thank you.
fund would take care of anything that would do with purchase a dump body, if we had to purchase a dump body, because it's a special piece of equipment.
Okay.
A plow, a loader, a mower, grader, excavator, that type of stuff, chipper, anything like that. And they can take a plate. The truck fund is for trucks, dump trucks and pickup trucks. So that's all that will come out of the truck line is dump trucks and pickups.
Then, that having been said, would you care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 9.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Moved by Tom, second by Aaron. I think discussion is done. On the roll call from my left, Sean.
Yes.
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 And the chair votes yes. That would be 8 to 0. Thank you. Number 10. Whoops. Did I just do that right?
Mhm.
Yes, okay. Number 10, to establish the municipal buildings capital reserve fund. And again, that would be, Pat, would you speak briefly to that?
And so this would be a new capital reserve fund, and this would be for the purpose of maintaining, managing the current buildings that we do have and possible design and building of future buildings. Currently, we have, in this building, we have several projects that probably should be done that we don't have money for, which would be a furnace in the future, foundation on this building in the near future, and also a roof in this building in the near future. And we have no money anywhere to maintain this building, never mind the public works building or the police station or the fire station or the other fire station. So we wanted to establish a capital reserve fund that we could start putting money in to take care of the needs of the buildings so that we can keep them updated and usable.
And not knowing what the outcome may be, but it was exactly that kind of planning. There is presently a motion from the selectmen to have you obtain quotes for possibly replacing the furnace in this room.
Yeah, I've taken care of the furnace. I think we're gonna be okay on the furnace for a couple more years.
It would be that type of,
Yeah, right.
of large purchase.
Right, yeah.
Any discussion from the committee on Article 10? Peg?
Yes. I'm recommending that Article 10 as written.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Tom. Discussion by the committee. End of discussion. On the roll call from my left on Article 10,
Aye.
recommended.
Aye.
Yes.
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 And the chair votes yes. Article 10, 8, 0. Article 11, the Milton Free Library Capital Reserve Fund, $31,000. Again, this is government building. I will bore you the ins and outs of library money and chip money and
So
speak.
this capital reserve fund was previously established to do the L-chip grant for the first phase, which was the first floor. We have the second phase that we have a quote on. I believe you have that quote in your packet from Boudel. It's broke down into sections. This money right here, along with the $25,000 that's in the capital reserve fund, would go to do the top part of the steeple. On that quote that you'll see that it's broken down. What my plan is to take that quote and do that in 3 phases, so it would take 3 more years if we could get money each year for each part of that quote. And the contractor recommended starting from the top of that steeple and working our way down and do the mansard and the windows last on the second floor. So it has to be, with an L-chip grant, this building has to be repaired to its original condition when it was built, which means we have to either replicate or come as close as we can with the molding, with the siding. I mean, we can't use anything that's in shape, but we can't use plastic. It
Yeah,
has to be authentic. It
yeah,
has
I was
to
wondering,
be-
like, install
so,
copper drip edge.
There's they inspect it, and if they inspect it and see that we didn't follow the historical standards, then we take a chance of not getting any of the grant money. And this building is on the list of historic buildings under the state, so they do come in and take a look, and it is, I believe you have a stewardship also,
That stewardship.
Chairman, with that.
Stewardship agreement for 5 years was just signed at the beginning of November, and they will come, and if we don't keep it up for 5 years, they want their money back.
Yeah.
The details of the Secretary of the Interior are remarkable. It's only because both foundations of the barn and the house were going to wash out up at the Farm Museum that they relented and let us put gutters in that were available in 1850, because they didn't put them in when they did that building. It's tough standards. Any other question on Article 10 from the committee? I'm sorry, Article.
Is that actually the amount in there now, is the 25,000?
The 25,000
Yes.
is the amount that's in the cap. See, what we did is we had a warrant article a couple of years ago to do this work with another contractor. That contractor has since passed away, so we had to find another contractor.
Okay.
So, the numbers are not gonna be the same, the work is gonna be different. Obviously, things have gone up, so, that is from a previous warrant article.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question, observation from the committee itself? Any other comment? Pat? Then, may I have a motion to recommend Article 11 as written?
Recommended?
Motion by Aaron, seconded by the chair. Then, from my left, Sean.
Aye.
Yes.
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 And the chair and library trustee Brown votes yes. Thank you. Article 12 is the Town of Milton Technology Fund. And Andy, do you wish to speak to that? It's very closely tied in with Article 13.
Well, we have 6,000 in the technology fund. We're asking for 8. We have a lot of computers that are close to needing to be replaced. So, you know, this is a good way to do that without, you know, spiking, like Bruce said, our taxes. So, you know.
Okay.
That's about.
Thank you.
So, I have a couple questions. So,
Sean?
for the technology fund, it's only to replace hardware, computers, or would it also do like?
Yeah, it's to replace. It's not to fix.
How many computers do we have? I mean, just
can you help me out
more or
with that?
less.
13?
Chief?
So, when the technology fund, the reason why it's called Milton Technology Fund and not just Town Hall Technology
Gotcha.
Fund, the ultimate belief for us is that we can use this for computers and software and hardware and technology for the entire town. So that way we don't have to have a CRF for every single department.
Other than the school.
Other than the school, correct. Because I currently have a CRF for my department for radios and for computers, and it's one singular CRF for mine. Instead of having a CRF for each singular department, we have a singular technology CRF for the town. So to build that up, we need to build that up. You know, with a server, we replaced the server at the police department a few years ago. That was $8,500. It's a lot of money, and that's just the server. That's not the desktops to run off the servers on the other sides. The server here at Town Hall is going to need some work here very soon. That's going to cost a significant amount of money. That's why this money is there for that.
Okay.
Phone systems, I think, would also fit into that category.
Correct.
The phone system here is pretty antiquated. I know that's been discussed.
Same with the phone system at the police department is going to need to be updated in the next couple of years.
Any other follow-up comments from either a phone system user or from selectmen? Other comment question from the committee? Tom?
I don't think so. My only question might be, is there any purpose that you see right now that you're gonna be spending immediately? Is there a need immediately identified that would expend any of this?
I thought when we did this last year, the original intent was that, and the town hall server I thought was in question last year.
And that follow-up question, is this enough? Yeah, here I am asking if, you know, we're returning too much money, and then asking, or is that enough to put in a technology fund? If you've already got some expenses that you see in the next year that you might need to expend out of this, is $8,000 enough?
No, it's 8,000 plus the 6,000.
Yeah. Is that enough?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, $8,000 for a server, which is, you know, probably middle of the road server, is that gonna be enough to do what you might see envisioned for next year?
Well, $8,000 is for the server at the police department,
Yeah.
which is a much smaller server than what runs here at Town Hall.
And
I don't know ultimately what came back on what needed to be replaced on the server here and whether or not the server needed a full replacement or partial replacements.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I know we were talking, or actually I think it was earlier this year, weren't we? We were talking that the server was going to have issues. I don't know if we ever got anything back from Back Bay that said this is exactly what needed to be replaced in the server and the actual cost of it. But I can tell you if my server costs $8,500, the server here is probably gonna cost double that, would be my expectation.
and that's why I'm asking, is this enough? You know, if we're building up the fund and you see you may have to, is it enough? That's my only question.
Well, I still have some money left in my CRF, so I wouldn't, for the police
Yeah.
department, I would be zeroing out my CRF before I ever came towards the town's technology
Is
portion.
there grants available for this type of thing?
For servers, usually not.
For, in general, for the technology?
The only one that I think that we may be eligible for would be a USDA one, and that's usually only 15%.
Well,
And that's only, I know that's for community development, so I'd have to really research it to figure out if it would fit into that category, but that's the only one that comes to mind.
My understanding from conversations, it's very difficult to get funds for what would be called operational expenses. As far as the server, it works until it breaks. When it breaks, it doesn't work.
I just take the recommendations from the town administrator. She was fine with this. She works closely with Back Bay, and if she brought any huge concerns to the Board of Selectmen, we would have addressed it. But as of right now, she's fine.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
Any other question, comment? May I have a recommendation?
Make a recommendation for Article 12 as written.
Recommendation to approve Article 12 as written. Second?
Second.
Second, Sean. On the roll call from my left. Sean?
Aye.
Peg?
Yes.
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 And the chair votes yes, 8-0 on Article 12. Article 13.
We already voted on that last week.
We did, thank you.
8-0.
Okay, Article 14, which is to establish the Bridge Capital Reserve Fund as distinct from the main bridges reserve fund. It's basically hot top. Could you speak to that?
So this bridge fund, capital reserve fund, is being established to cover other bridges that we have in town. Back in the early 2000s, the main Milton Bridge Capital Reserve Fund was specifically for border bridges. I believe the article, I don't have that article in front of me, but I believe it said for border bridges. So what we want to do is, we have money in the main border bridges. We want to keep that money there to work with the state of Maine to do the townhouse bridge when that comes in, and there's pretty close to the right amount in that fund to do that bridge right now. What we do have coming up is a bridge on Winding Hill Road that's going to be need to be replaced by 2026. That's another $140,000, $150,000 that the town's going to need for their portion to replace that bridge. It's like $1.4 million or something like that is what the state has given us a number on to replace that bridge. So the reason this one came up was if we change the wording on the old warrant article, we need a 3/5 vote to get that to pass. With this one, you don't need a 3/5. When the main border bridge money is spent in the next year or two, we will just delete that capital reserve fund, and this capital reserve fund will cover everything we need going forward.
Nice.
So the intention of this one is to cover within the town borders as well as
Yes,
the.
interior, yes, and border. It will do both.
Fantastic.
One account, so you'll be able to just look at one capital reserve fund instead of two.
Because it is a remarkable thing that we actually have 5 ways to get to Maine through Milton.
Unless you can
Okay.
swim.
Can you come up the lake?
6. Once again, the astute water commissioner has dealt with water. May I have a recommendation? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to follow up, it seems like the appropriate time. One of the other recommendations in the CIP was to kind of square away the capital reserve funds. So as you look through all those, there's lots of them. We're not funding all of them, but it takes a vote to close them. And we were trying to eliminate warrant articles down to a manageable amount. So some year, when we don't have 20 warrant articles, we're gonna start eliminating and closing the ones that are obsolete or improperly worded 30 years ago.
Thank you. We'll carry that thought forward to the public hearing. Then, may I have on Article 14 a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Thank you, Erin. Second?
Second.
By Peg Hurd. Any other discussion? Okay, on the roll call. Sean?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that would be to vote of 7 and 1. And
That's it.
that's it. We have done that. I will thank you for your additional time and comments. Thank the Budget Committee for its questions. I hope that this last hour also served as a good review of what questions could be coming from the public for how carefully the town of Milton spends its money. That being said, we have the town of Milton 2018 warrant before us, beginning with Article number 2, zoning. As far as I know, there's no statutory obligation to read each one of these. I still have the vocal cords for it. If you are willing to sit and listen, I think we should be done within a half hour, as this is just an opportunity for the public here present to ask questions and review the document themselves. So,
Yeah, I don't know if this is the proper time for this. I'm on, maybe people will question why I'm sitting here. I have rescinded my resignation.
Bob, you don't have to because you didn't do it in writing. So if you didn't do it in writing, it was never given to the board.
But I think maybe people should know that I changed my mind. What happened last week was I resigned with total disregard to what was going on. I deal with reckless abandon, what it come down to, and when I thought about it over the weekend, I left a gap in this board, and this is not the time to do it. We have new people on here, and I have to help them out as much as I can with the rest of us, for the rest of our veterans. Stan and Larry.
Oh, what?
I forgot, I really forgot him. It's just not.
The old guy.
Yeah, the old guy. I just figured people need to know.
Chopped liver yourself, thank you.
Okay, so,
We welcome you back. We never let you really go.
well, I wasn't sure if you were going to.
Oh, then, we have the Town of Milton, New Hampshire warrant 2018 to the inhabitants of the Town of Milton in the county of, you will insert the county name, Stratford, in the state of New Hampshire, qualified to vote in town affairs, are hereby notified and warned that the 2 phases of the annual town meeting will be held as follows. Dates are blank, you will fill those in. The deliberative session is, matter of fact, going to be held on February 3rd, beginning at...
No,
February
10th.
I'm sorry, you just...
I said that.
I'm sorry. The 10th, at the community room cafeteria at the high school, beginning at
9 o'clock.
9 a.m.
Snow date.
Is the following day at the same time. February 11th. Okay. The second session of the annual meeting, the official ballot voting, will be on
Tuesday, March 13th,
Tuesday, March 13th,
8 to 7
from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
at
The Milton Assembly of God Church, directly to the south of Town Hall. Article 2, which is zoning. Are you in favor of the adoption of amendment number 1 as proposed by the planning board for the town zoning ordinance as follows? To amend the Milton zoning ordinance by adding a new article, Roman 21 XXI, entitled accessory dwelling units, which makes an accessory dwelling unit a permitted use by right in conjunction with any permissible single-family dwelling while maintaining the visual and functional character of single-family residential neighborhoods, as required by a 2016 state statute, RSA 674:71- through 73, Copies of the complete text of Amendment Number 1 are available for review at the town office and will be available the day of the election. Any comment from the public regarding that? Article 3. Are you in favor of the adoption of Amendment Number 2 as proposed by the Planning Board for the town zoning ordinance as follows? To amend Article Roman 17 XVI, Groundwater Protection Overlay District, by updating all sections to ensure compliance with current state statutes and administrative rules. To amend Section 3 definitions, to add and delete definitions as required by statute, to amend Section 4 Groundwater Protection Overlay District, to add wellhead protection areas, and to add a 1,000-foot radius around wells for blasting activities. To amend Section Roman 6, Performance Standards, by updating to reflect current best management practices for source water protection, including those pertaining to regulated substances, and by adding a requirement for projects to prepare a groundwater monitoring plan when excavating or blasting within 1,000 feet of municipal water wells. To amend Section XI, Roman 11, exemptions. B, to correct, to amend Section Roman 16, effective date, by adding date of enactment and amendment, and various revisions were made throughout the text to identify updated reference documents or sections. Copies of the complete text of Amendment Number 2 are available for review at the town office and will be available the day of the election. Any member of the public who wishes to comment or review Article 3. Article 4 of the operating budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget $4,508,365.48, as recommended by the as recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately. The amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $4,534,914, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman 10 and Roman 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Comment, question from the public? Article 5, Highway and Road Reconstruction, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $290,000 for highway and road reconstruction purposes. Said amount is partially offset by revenues from the highway block grant, estimated to be $134,000. This appropriation will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7 Roman 6, and will not lapse until completed or by December 31st, 2019. Majority vote is required. The Article 6, the lease/purchase fire department pumper. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into it. I'm sorry, any comment or question from the public regarding Article 5? Article 6, continued. For the sum of $505,000 for the purpose of leasing a pump/tanker to replace the 1989 pumper for the fire department, as described in the recommended 2018-2023 Capital Improvements Program. The first year's payment will commence in 2019, which is the expiration of the lease for the 2013 pumper, and is estimated to be approximately $61,000. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. A majority vote is required. Any question or comment from the public? Article 7. Fire Department Equipment and Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be added to the Milton Fire Department Equipment and Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund, previously established for the purposes of funding future capital expenditures as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation. Majority vote is required. Question, comment, observation from the public? There being none. Article 8, Highway Department Special Equipment Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the Highway Department Special Equipment Fund, previously established for the purpose of funding the future capital expenditures as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation. Majority vote is required. Comment from the public on Article 8. Hearing none. Article 9, Highway Department Vehicle Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the Highway Department Vehicle Fund, previously established for the purposes of funding future capital expenditures as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount to be raised from taxation. A majority vote is required. Question, comment from the public on Article 9? There being none. Article 10, Establish Municipal Buildings Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to establish a capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of designing, constructing, and maintaining municipal buildings, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be placed in this fund for the purpose of funding future capital expenditures as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation. Further, to name the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund, majority vote required. Question, comment, observation. Article 11, Milton Free Public Library Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $31,000 to be placed in the Milton Free Public Library Capital Reserve Fund previously established for the purpose of funding future capital expenditures as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. Question, observation. There being none, Article 12, Town of Milton Technology Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,000 to be placed in the Town of Milton Technology Fund, previously established for the purpose of funding future capital expenditures, as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. Question or comment from the public? Article 12. Hearing none. Article 13, Geographic Information System, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,000 for the purpose of establishing a public web-based geographic information system, parenthesis GIS, for the town as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation. Majority vote required. Any question or comment from the public? There being none. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to establish a capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the purpose of repairing, reconstructing, or constructing bridges or culverts in the town of Milton, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in this fund for the purpose of funding future capital expenditures as described in the recommended 2018-2023 capital improvements program. This sum is to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised from taxation, period. Further, to name the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund, parenthesis, majority vote required. Again, any comment, observation from the public? There being none. Article 15, eradicate European Naiad. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the purposes of eradicating the invasive plant species European Naiad from the water bodies in the town of Milton. This is a special warrant article. This sum to come from the fund balance and no amount is to be raised by taxation. Question, comment, observation? Being none, Article 16, extend fire chief term. To see if the town will vote to extend the term of office for the position of fire chief from 1 year to 3 years. Article 17, conservation. To see if the town will vote under the authority of RSA 80:60 Roman 5 to retain for public use 5 former subdivision lots located on the Class 6 portion of Winding Road as conveyed to the town by tax collector deeds, which property has since been voluntarily merged into one lot of approximately 5.5 acres by action of the town and the planning board. Parenthesis, these lots were formally identified in the town's records as map 41, lots 6811, 6812, 6813, 6814, and 6815? Okay. There had been a previous typo. This property is to be dedicated to conservation purposes with public access, and approval of this article shall also authorize the town to convey a conservation easement on this property to a qualified non-profit. Is there any question, comment, or observation from the public? There being none, I'll offer the public another opportunity to question or comment any part of the warrant operating budget presentation. There being none, the public hearing is closed at 7:18 p.m. Thank you. Now, where that puts us?
Minutes?
Minutes. I do not have the minutes, neither have I had a chance to review them. That does not bother me. If anyone wishes to bring it
Table to the
forward.
next meeting.
Second it.
Second, I
All
agree.
in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor? Thank you, before you catch on. All in favor, by consensus, aye. There is one thing I've been looking, possibly, Bob, you remember, a vote to certify our vote on the town warrant and operating budget and warrants to be forwarded to the executive body of the school district and the town. Have we done that?
No, we have not done that. What this has to do, you have to have a motion to the budget and the warrant articles to be sent to the deliberative session.
Okay.
We did that
I
for the
believe-
school, didn't we?
I think we did that. Probably not. I don't remember, I don't recall.
Well, we haven't been done, so we can't have done it for the town.
We didn't do it for the
No,
town.
but
We haven't done it yet for the town.
Did we do it for the school?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We didn't,
No, we
no,
haven't
we,
done it.
In that case, is that clear? One of the statutory things that the Budget Committee does, we are responsible for the official budget for the ensuing year, which we are then required to certify that it is the official budget and send it to the executive governing body of both the school district and the town. And I never remember the process. And I will ask you to make that motion to.
And then you just make a motion to send both budgets?
Both to the respective, to the school budget to the school and the town budget to the town. Stan makes the motion.
I make it.
Second?
Peg is second. Any discussion? Then, on the roll call.
In that motion, it should be stated for the deliberative session.
For the deliberative
Yes.
session. Thank you, Stan. I knew we were together. Sean?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. Is there any other work for the budget committee in this night's meeting?
Yes.
Are we gonna meet early on the deliberative session?
We, Lord, we did, no, Stan. When you disappoint a pessimist, it's because things have worked out right.
Normally, well, not normally, we have, last year we did, we met early.
Yeah. On the instructions to the moderator, it says that the moderator shall meet with the selectmen, with the school board, and with the budget committee to review the work of the deliberative session and see who's going to make motion for this, motion for that. If we are there and set our special meeting for 15 minutes before the start of the town deliberative session, and second notice for 15 minutes before the start of the school deliberative session, that should cover it. And unless somebody has a better idea, we'll make sure those two agendas go out. Anything else?
There is one other thing that has to be done, is that we need a MS 737. Now, I don't know who's going to do this
Is that
thing.
what Joanne's been working on?
Yeah.
And I think it's been posted up to the portal, correctly?
I believe so. I have an email draft of it, but I don't know.
We get to sign it.
Yes. We have 20 days.
It exists.
Okay, just to be sure, we have 20 days after this public hearing. It has to be posted in different areas. Last
We
year,
already lost some days because the school was last week.
Yeah.
Nate's usually good about this, and I haven't heard from him at all, because I mentioned that as well. I need that MS 27 so the budget committee can sign it. I'm sure it's 20 days after the public hearing. You have to have this, the committee's gotta sign it, and he'll usually let me know that it's here. And it's the same over here. We have to sign it so I can notify the committee members to come in and sign it and be posted.
And
it also takes 5 copies. We need 5 of them.
Yeah. And there have been times when members of the budget committee have been on the road.
Okay, what is it? MS 27?
The MS 27, yes.
Okay.
I'm sure Nate is very familiar because I
Yeah,
asked him on it.
he sent, that was waiting for us at the town hall last year.
Yes.
And
Oh, okay.
Michelle
All right.
said that Joanne is on it.
The only other question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We don't have the sheets that, what happens when there's a change? We don't, all I have is Tom's spreadsheet. We don't have the 2018, the one we really should be having. And this is something we need. So I can go verify the numbers. I think Danielle asked me to send the working spreadsheet for you.
In
Pat Smith.
2018, you're on default until the vote in March, so there's not gonna be any numbers showing until after the vote.
Oh, no, yeah, but this is what I'm talking about. This is the budget.
Yep.
Okay, this is a spreadsheet.
You mean an updated expenditure?
No.
No, we can't change it, we've already made the vote, it's our number that goes on the ballot, you can't change it now.
I meant to bring my other one. You remember the 2018 budget with all the numbers exactly as it's formed almost here? It's not a spreadsheet.
No,
It's a regular sheet. Usually we get it, any changes that are made, like tonight, we made a change. I have all the numbers to every column, to town
For the
administrator.
deliberative session, you mean?
Well, usually we have a sheet. We're gonna have to discuss this process next year because we need to get better than that. I don't have one with me, Stan. It says 2018 budget on it, and usually it's the same columns here. It's just that it's better than this because this is all we got. And usually,
Nothing can change now.
no, nothing can change.
I think what Bob is asking for is the budget that we were presented with changed, right? It was all voted on, the numbers, some of the numbers in it changed. He's asking for an updated sheet showing those changes.
Yeah, because
With the bottom line number in it.
that's it.
250 back there.
Because at the deliberative session, you're gonna have that sheet for the people, yes.
Just,
Like that, I think.
yeah,
Oh, no,
but
no.
she has to make that change, so give her your sheet, so she can make the change tomorrow and then ask for an updated copy.
Danielle, you need this?
We spoke earlier, if I could have access to the actual document, not the printed out copy of it, so I
You
can
want the
sit
working
there.
spreadsheet?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that your electrons can talk to those electrons.
Okay.
I just got a question, is Heather okay, or she?
Yeah, yeah, she was back to work today,
I'm back to work today.
yeah, so, thank you for asking though.
Rocky. Even, okay.
Motion adjourned.
You beat me to it.
Second.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Third.
She did have a question though. We
Yeah,
did vote
did
on
we
that motion to
vote?
send everything,
He
right?
said motion to recommend, she seconded, but did we vote?
No, we did
Or
not.
did I sleep through that?
No, I don't think we did.
Sorry.
I don't think we did.
No.
No.
Wait a minute.
We voted on something. What did we vote on?
It was a roll
The
call.
motion to recommend about setting forth the school in the,
Yeah.
in the.
Yeah, we did do it.
Did we
No, we
do?
did.
Yeah.
Did we do? Okay.
We did.
Yeah.
I must have slept.
You did say yes.
Did I?
I just sent an email to Nate.
Might be the
I
tequila.
sent
talking.
an email to Nate asking for 5 copies of the MS 27.
All in favor?
Dropped off. Aye. Well, I said, yeah, I said to be dropped off at Town Hall for us to sign.
You'll give us a week.
Well, we all did a good job.
No, where did they go?
Yeah.